Well, hello everyone. Good to see you. It's been a while since I've projected into the YouTube sphere. Um, I've been on a media fast and I'm continuing it, where absolutely everything in the news and stuff like that is sounds like static to me. Uh, I've cut out. Um, at first, I cut out all media. Um, And at this point, I am watching or consuming only those things that really uplift and energize. Um, it seems like everything is reflective of what is happening in the news cycle. And so distancing myself from the news cycle and then listening to those things that are uplifting has been a fascinating experience. The contemporary things, the things that are coming out on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Um, Now, I am also expanding into other places, which is just following what my intuition is telling me. Uh, Looking into other stories, other perspectives, and not and trying to stay away from uh, anything that is intellectually uh, stimulating, um, because what's happening, what I've realized in the media fast, is that this intellectual stimulation gets on a, a snake eating its tail type of trajectory, and it's hard to get out of that loop. And so I've been coming into the intelligence of the heart and finding where I'm being led there. And a lot of it is as interesting, I find it very interesting, is these new discoveries around the world. Um, New discoveries of, say, ancient technologies that we are just now beginning to understand, through the pyramids, through monolithic uh, constructions here and there, um, and finding that they're coming out all over the place. Excuse me, got something in my eye. What is this? There we go. Um, and then other things that seem to be uh, coming out. I watched a video the other day where they have excavated uh, giant, very contemporary of human being skeletons, uh, nine to, I think the largest that I heard was getting on to 18 feet tall. Uh, Skeletons very similar to uh, contemporary humans that also had six fingers, six toes, um, and that were found at many or most of those megalithic sites, but were unable to divulge the information because it conflicted with our um, mainstream evolution paradigm. And the other fascinating thing about those older, uh, taller beings is that they were previous to 7,000 years ago and dating back, 14,000 years, uh, best they could tell, which throws everything out of the water, which says that basic civilization started with, stone and then bronze around 6,000 years ago. And according to what they're finding is that technology took a big dive and then it started its way back up with our modern iteration. So fascinating things that uh, I think taken all together expand the perspective of what this is. Um, I illustrated it in my book, The Importance of Flying, how um, I had a series of experiences where I recognized that this body representation was just a teeny tiny portion of what we really are. And it was fascinating, and it's been a long time kind of getting used to that, especially in a culture where the physical body person is esteemed as the entire person, as the entire uh, identity. And for years, I just couldn't abide by that. It was like, well, this body person was such a teeny percentage of what we are, of what I am. And why is just this body person given 100% of the recognition? And let's move into embracing the entire person. And I think what I saw then and what I'm seeing now is that we span multiple dimensions as well. Uh, so this non-physical component, we call the spirit or the soul, we're trying to understand from our 3D consciousness, and it doesn't abide. So we really give it very little credence because it is not of the 3D, and so uh, and we've given, like I mentioned, 100% of our endorsement only to the physical being and of nothing else. And so anybody talking about extra dimensions, other dimensions, even Einstein, he was laughed at when I believe he was working in 9 to 11 dimensions by the time he passed. And they were like, in the beginning, it was just more than most folks could fathom. The quantum physicist, of course, dove deeper into that, and now we're seeing that consciousness itself is considered a dimension. So let's dive deeper into that. And so back to intellectualizing. Intellectualizing is of this 3D uh, body identity. So it's kind of a mind body conspiracy that keeps us here. And uh, when we expand our awareness, or we uh, expand the point by which we synthesize to other points of awareness, the heart center, the solar plexus center, all these energetic centers throughout the body, the third eye, all of these. Let those actually uh, open up and give what is coming through credence, all the credence it deserves. Uh, you know, the Bhagavad Gita. I love how it states that everything that is real is eternal, but everything that is not real is not eternal. Or, in other words, if it's not eternal, it's not part of reality. So, anything that we see in this 3D perspective is our illusion, is our part of our imagined self. And so, even though this seems to be the most tactile, it's actually uh, the least real, which is fascinating. It's really the way, I see it, and it's been explained by many others, is that this is the reflection. So consciousness wanted to see what it would look like if it were to project itself and look back. And so this is the mirror view of what consciousness is. And so we kind of dove deep. We went way further than maybe uh, was ever attempted before. I don't know. But, we came to this place where the reality that we projected from the 3D was the only reality that was accepted from this um, human perspective. And I think it's time to go back and embrace our wider reality and see that this is the reflection of consciousness. And then as understanding that this is the reflection of consciousness, be that and take consciousness, which is pure light energy, uh, and reflect it back as true consciousness rather than distance from consciousness, which I think is where we got the ideas of dualities and good and evil, and that there is something that is tragic and awful, and just that you can experience something that's tragic and awful is wonderful in an odd sense. So, or at least an odd sense to the intellectual mind that is invested entirely in perpetuating the physical paradigm. So, uh, I'm hoping that this is reaching some of you, uh, because this is where I feel like we are with the awakening of so many uh, uh, perspectives. Um, I've had several meditations, and I think you can go back in where we tap into the consciousness, the beingness of Earth, and recognize that we as human beings aren't the um, intellectual piece or the cognizant piece of Earth. We are part of this massive consciousness that is Earth, that is consciousness on such a broad scale, that it's geologic, right? It's billions of years. And we're kind of trapped as humans in a time limitation. So we can't see the whole picture of what the consciousness of Earth is expressing because we're 1 second in the entire span of Earth's awareness. And not only that, but the consciousness of the solar system, of the sun, of the planets, and then, of course, of the universe, All of this is expression of consciousness, and consciousness that is imbued within everything and is expressing in its own way, and perhaps uh, accessing far more dimensions, far greater scales than a human life can ever comprehend. And so we need to begin to step out of mental intellectualizations and move into more deeper. We can use sensory um, sensory um, cognitions, but I feel like we go even beyond that into uh, true silence. You know, the deep silence that maybe is more indicative of pure consciousness. Uh, this, by the way, is my book, and I I ended up with this quote from the Katha Upanishad. You know, I talk a lot about death in here, and death is a fascinating subject because, you know, in a lot of the Eastern writings, there is no death, that death itself is a concept. And it really is. It's a concept that is born of this physical being that has very confined limitations. But the quote that I end up with is from Death, the king of death. His name is Yama. He's teaching this kid named Nachikitas about, you know, the bigger picture. And this is the silence that I'm talking about. Beyond the senses are objects. Beyond objects is the mind. And beyond mind is the intellect. The ego lies beyond the intellect. I think that's fascinating. That ego is really just our survival nature, but there's a consciousness so deep in that it has commandeered intellect. Let me get back to the quote. Sorry. The undeveloped consciousness lies beyond the ego, and beyond the undeveloped consciousness is consciousness, where the self resides. And the self is that person that I'm talking about, the self that encompasses far more than just this physical representation. And this physical piece is actually a very small piece of the self. And that's where the self resides, is in consciousness. But beyond consciousness is the great quiet. And this is the highest goal. This great quiet is hidden and does not shine forth. It is revealed only by those who, seated in the self, which is in consciousness, keep a one-pointed focus. Pure absorption enables one to go past words, past thoughts, and ego into the self to touch upon the great quiet. See, even when we surpass our ability or our intellectualizations, and we go so deep into meditation that we are no longer participating in conceptualizations, we can still only just touch upon that lies behind the consciousness that has helped with the development of the physical experience that we all know. Rise and awaken. The path is sharp as a razor's edge, difficult to traverse. From the self, one can perceive beyond sound, touch, taste, form, and causality to the great quiet. Those who know the great quiet rest in the truth of the immutable, eternal, and undying. To me, that just kind of sums it up. It's pretty cool. So, uh, fascinating experiences throughout where, um, you know, the body itself got out of the way in an interesting and, and sometimes uh, very traumatic for the emotional self to process ways, but the body stepped aside so that these other things could pass into, and I think everyone has had those experiences of pure light, pure awareness, pure awakening. Um, and oftentimes we have those experiences and they're just touch points. We see through this illusion just for a flash. And that's our opportunity to grab on and go. Whereas most times we don't take that opportunity and we say, oh, that was just something, it was a chemical spasm in the brain, and I am this. Because we keep coming back to the proof that physicality is what there is, to causality, to empirical evidence that this is what is. And uh, boy, uh, it isn't. All that is real is eternal. And anything that's not eternal is not real. So, anyway, wonderful to see you again. Subscribe, comment, say hello, like, and I promise to send you more videos. Bye bye.